Shalom, children. Our story continues today when Yeshua was teaching a gathering of people. A Torah scholar stood up in front of the crowd and asked Yeshua, "Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" Yeshua asked him, "What is written in the Torah?" The scholar replied, "You shall love Yah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." Yeshua answered him, "Do this, and you shall live for eternity." The scholar then asked, "But who is my neighbor?" To answer this question, Yeshua gave a parable. He said, "A certain man went down from Jerusalem towards Jericho. On the road, thieves attacked him. They beat him and took all of his things. They ran away, leaving him by the roadside in a very bad shape. A priest came along the road, but when he saw the beaten man, he crossed over to the other side and continued on his journey. A Levite then came along. When he saw the man, he too passed by on the other side of the road. A Samaritan traveled along the same way. When he saw the man, he had compassion on him, so went over to help. He poured wine onto the wounds to clean them, and afterwards oil to help soothe. He then wrapped up the man's injuries with bandages. He put the man onto his own beast and brought him to an inn where he could spend some time to recover. The Samaritan gave the innkeeper 2 weeks' wages to cover any costs of the man's stay there. He added, "When I return, I will pay anything extra that I owe you." Having finished the story, Yeshua asked the Torah scholar, "Which of these 3 men do you think were a neighbor to the beaten man?" The scholar replied, "The one who showed mercy." Yeshua said, "Go and do the same." Children, let's think. Which 2 men ignored the needs of the beaten man? A priest and a Levite. But these 2 men spend their entire lives in service to Yahweh in the set-apart place. You would think they ought to have mercy on others, just as the Father has mercy on us. Who was the man who showed compassion? It was a Samaritan who happened to be journeying along the road that day. Now, do you remember if Samaritan people were liked by the Yehudim? No, they were not liked. In fact, the Yehudim wouldn't even speak to people from the Samarian region. How interesting that Yeshua chose such a man to be the example of someone showing mercy. He helped someone who wouldn't normally even speak to him, let alone show any kindness in return. Like the Torah scholar, we too can learn something from this parable. Children, it is easy to be nice to our friends and share our time or our treats with them. But can we show kindness to those we don't like all that much? And is it possible for us to show mercy to others? That is, to be kind to those who have been mean to us. Now that is when we start walking on the narrow way. Sometime later, Yeshua entered the village of Beit Enya, not far from Jerusalem. He had been invited to the home of a woman named Martha. This lady had a sister named Miriam, who was also there when Yeshua visited. Yeshua went in and settled down to talk with them. Miriam went to sit at his feet and listen. Back in the kitchen, Marta was busy running around, preparing food for her visitors. When she saw her sister sat doing nothing to help her, she became quite annoyed and said to Yeshua, "Are you not concerned that my sister has left me to do all the work of serving? Please tell her to help me." Yeshua told Marta that she worried herself about so many things. But right at that moment, the most important thing to do was what Miriam had chosen. That was to spend time with Yeshua whilst he was still with them. One of the gifts we have been given from Yahweh is time. It is a precious gift, and we ought to choose what we do with our time very thoughtfully. Let's dig a bit deeper together. Imagine you are playing with friends and having a jolly good time. Now, there is nothing wrong with spending some of our time playing and enjoying the company of friends. But if that is all we want to do and choose to do, well, what happens to all those things that need to get done, such as tidying that room up that Mother has asked you to do? The scriptures caution us to use our time wisely. Solomon wrote, "For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven." And Rabbi Shaul wrote in one of his letters to the believers, "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise but as wise, making the best use of the time." In our story today, Marta chose to rush around, making herself all busy, and not taking the time to listen to what Yeshua was teaching. She thought her sister Miriam was being very lazy, letting her do all the work. But Miriam had chosen the right path, spending her time hearing from Yeshua, who is the living Torah. He was her priority. That is her number one choice. It is a lovely thing that Marta wanted to show hospitality and make her guests feel comfortable. But on that occasion, listening to Yeshua should have been her priority. Can you think how we can apply this lesson to our own lives? When you get up in the morning, are you busy thinking about what you may eat for breakfast? Or do you take a few minutes to stop and ask Yahweh to help you be kind and thoughtful that day, to be the best you can be? And what about when it's time to go back to bed in the evening? Are you so tired that you just flop onto your bed and go straight to sleep? Or do you take the time to think through all the events that happened that day and thank Adonai for everything? Our morning and evening prayers remind me of the morning and evening sacrifices offered to Yahweh in the temple each day. They help us to remember Adonai and to check if we are walking on the right path. And do you know what Yahweh has put into the sky to act as a reminder of these two times of the day? The sunrise and the sunset. Isn't that wonderful of him? Well, children, that is the end of our story for today. So we will see you next time for another exciting journey in the life of Yeshua. Shalom.
Tender plant, a root in a dry land, no beauty of form that we should desire. He was the man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, despised and rejected, we Surely, surely he carried our souls. Truly, he bore all our griefs. Wounded and